Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. Stock markets end flat after a day of subdued trade. Financial and bank stocks continue to bleed. The action in most other sectors remains stock-specific in the absence of any big triggers. 2 days after being sacked as the CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman joins Microsoft along with OpenAI co-founder Greg Brockman. Talks of him rejoining OpenAI are put to rest as the company names former Twitch chief Emmett Shear as the CEO. Reports say Altman may be Microsoft's nominee to the OpenAI board. U.S. Ambassador to India Eric Garcetti says the pause on trade talks in the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework is not permanent, says the temporary suspension is to address some issues raised by other IPEF partners. Operations to rescue the 41 construction workers trapped following a tunnel collapse in Uttarakhand continue for the 9th day. Multiple agencies have been put into play as 5 different approaches are being implemented simultaneously to expedite the rescue. Officials say the rescue operations could take another 4 to 5 days. Israel and Hamas inch closer to a U.S. brokered deal which is likely to free a dozen hostages captured by Hamas in exchange for a ceasefire in Gaza, but the Israeli military continues to expand operations. Tamil Nadu and Kerala governments moved the Supreme Court against their governors for delaying assent to bills cleared by the legislature. The Apex Court issues a notice to the Kerala governor, Arif Mohammed Khan. The court also questions Tamil Nadu governor's delay in disposing bills pending since January of 2020. Australia breaks 1 billion hearts as it defeats India in the ICC Men's World Cup final to lift the trophy for the 6th time. Travis Head is named man of the match. Virat Kohli, player of the tournament. Well, a range-bound session saw the Lal Street today, ending the day flat. The Nifty and the Sensex ended close to 0.25% in the red. The Nifty 50 down just about in the red. The Sensex also closing about 140 points lower. The Nifty Bank, though, was just about in positive territory and not much to speak of for the big caps either, but closing with a green tick. So the broader market doing better than the benchmark indices. Mid-cap index hitting a new record high in today, crossing the 42,000 mark. Surabhi is here with the details. Surabhi, the overnight heartbreak carrying forward to the markets as well.
Well, a very quiet start to the week and the indices in a very, very narrow range, but with volatility and some choppiness. The Nifty spent the day in about a 90-point band, but it had that big wave of selling to endure around afternoon, and blame it on the banks and financials once again. That was the hallmark of trade today, that nervousness, that uncertainty that we had on Friday after the big RBI announcement. Perhaps that's not entirely over as yet, looking at today's trading action, because the Bank Nifty had that big intraday fall. Of course, the good news for the bulls is that it got bought into. So the collapse didn't continue endlessly. The Bank Nifty and the Nifty, they closed off the lowest levels of the day, but the weakness is persisting. And that's very evident when you start looking at stocks. Axis Bank, ICICI Bank, most of the big blue chip names on the red side today. Even NBFCs, Bajaj Finance was nursing another, 1.5% lower cut coming through. Poonawalla Finance, Sundaram Finance, these were some of the names on the way down. Other Nifty losers, well, the big boys couldn't quite come in and help matters today. Whether you're looking at consumer names like HUL or ITC, or you're looking at a Reliance, a lot of the auto stocks had some more selling pressure to contend with. They were basically looking at profit-taking after the big move on Friday. So M&M, Tata Motors, these were stocks down. IT was trying to provide support. It was trying to bat real hard, but it wasn't quite enough when it came to the Nifty's final tally. You had TCS, LTI, Mindtree, Wipro, all of these stocks putting on gains, but not enough. Nifty gainers also included Bharti Airtel, Divi's and Coal India. A word on the mid-cap market. There also the momentum kind of fizzled out by the time we were in the afternoon session, and the index ended flat. Those stocks had their fair share of moves. No taking away from that. KPIT Tech signed. These stocks are very excited as we get into the Tata Technologies IPO. Then there is, for instance, Mankind Pharma, which is getting added on to the FTSE indices. So there was some traction over there. Quiet session, more about individual stocks. Global cues are still okay. US yields have come off. But I think the market needs some more clarity on the banking and financial side of things before it decides to make the next bigger move.
Surabhi, many thanks for joining us. Oil prices extend gains on expectations that OPEC Plus will deepen supply cuts to shore up prices. Investors also eyeing disruption in Russian crude oil trade after Washington imposed sanctions on 3 ships that send so-called crude to India. Brent crude remains below $80 a barrel, so that's continued good news on the crude front. But the pot boiler, Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT, who was fired as the CEO of OpenAI, will now lead the new advanced AI research team at Microsoft. The development comes less than 3 days after Altman, one of the torchbearers of our division. Foxconn, Dell, HP, Dixon and Lenovo are among the 27 companies that have been granted approval under the centre's IT hardware PLI scheme. IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav said that of the 27 companies, 23 will be ready to start production on the first day, while the rest will begin within 90 days. The minister also said that the scheme will lead to additional production of 3.5 lakh crore rupees and will generate direct employment for 50,000 people. Speaking with CNBC TV 18, Dixon CFO Saurabh Gupta said the company is confident of meeting the requirements of India's market. Take a look.
I think this is the kind of support that we were looking for. And over a period of time, we feel confident that, one, we'll be able to meet the requirements of the large domestic Indian market, which is presently being serviced through imports. But over a period of 2-3 years, I think so India can potentially become a hub for global markets as well.
Well, that's Dixon on the hardware PLI. Cipla's Indore facility has received a warning letter from the United States Food and Drug Administration. The warning letter summarizes controls and methods at the facility that violate the current good manufacturing practices. New approvals from the site will be put on hold for now. The government is likely to announce measures to reduce tax-related litigation in the upcoming budget. Sources tell us that the appeal units of the Income Tax Department has been asked to resolve all cases pending as on the 1st of April that involve a demand of 50 crore rupees and above. Timsy standing by now with more details. Timsy, take us through what the government is hoping to do to ensure that we are not seeing a pipeline of unresolved litigation.
Well, that's right. Litigation management continues to be the top priority of the Income Tax Department. According to sources, a detailed analysis of data shows that the disposal of appeals is much less than fresh appeals which are getting filed every year. Sources share that the government is likely to announce measures to reduce litigation in the upcoming budget. According to the data cited by sources, number of appeals pending as on 31st March 2023 have increased to 5.16 lakhs from 4.96 lakhs as on 31st March 2022. More than 2.8 lakh appeals have been pending for more than 3 years. To ensure faster disposal of appeals, Tax Department has penned down strict targets for its officers. Under the plan, according to sources, each appeal unit has been told to dispose a minimum of 450 appeals for the current fiscal. Not just this, the appeal unit has been told to dispose all the cases pending as of 1st April 2023 involving demand of 50 crores and above, and a mandatory disposal of all appeals filed prior to April 2020 if the demand is more than 10 lakh rupees. There are currently 285 appeal units under the Tax Department across India who will have to submit a final report card to the board by January. Let's see whether the litigation burden gets reduced or not.
Timsy Benny, thanks for joining us. Now, the pause on trade talks in the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework is not permanent. That is the word in from the US Ambassador to India, Eric Garcetti. Speaking after the recently concluded India-US 2+2 dialogue, Garcetti said the temporary suspension is to address issues raised by other IPEF partners. Take a look.
For trade, yeah, that's not a permanent pause of any sort. I think that's a momentary one. And we've been in regular communication. Whether it's here with tariff barriers that make it very difficult for foreign direct investment to come in, even when it's fleeing places like China to India, where they're seen as too many barriers, and if you can't bring things in, you can't make things to export out. And so there's a lot of talk around that trade, but it's not, that is not some sort of permanent pause. I think it's a temporary one around some issues that have to be worked out with some of the IPEF partners.
That is the US Ambassador to India. Now, the Israel-Hamas war has entered its 7th week. Nearly 13,000 Palestinians have been killed since the war broke out on the 7th of October. Israeli tanks surrounding an Indonesian hospital in northern Gaza after at least 12 people were killed following direct attacks by the Israeli army. Reports have said that Israeli forces have been shooting people trying to escape the hospital, which is currently sheltering more than 6,000 patients. Medics have also evacuated 31 babies from the Al-Shifa hospital, which was attacked by Israeli forces. Reports suggest the Israeli military is expanding its operations in the Gaza Strip and has warned refugees in the Jabalia camp to evacuate. A report by Washington Post says that Israel and Hamas are closer to a US brokered deal that will entail freeing dozens of hostages in Gaza. However, the US and Israel have denied that such a deal has in fact been finalized. Meanwhile, the Arab nations have called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. During their visit to Beijing, leaders have pushed for an end to the hostilities and have asked for humanitarian aid to be allowed into Gaza. Yemen's Houthi rebels have said that they've seized an Israeli cargo ship in the Red Sea. The group's spokesperson said they will continue to carry military operations against Israel until it stops the aggression in Gaza and the West Bank. Israel said it has nothing to do with the ship and that it was a British-owned and Japanese-operated cargo ship, but also described the incident as an Iranian act of terror with consequences for international maritime security. We will head into a break, but up next, operations to rescue the 41 construction workers trapped following a tunnel collapse in Uttarakhand continue for the 9th day. That and more when we return. Tamil Nadu and Kerala's governments have moved the Supreme Court against their governors for delaying the assent to bills cleared by the legislature. The Supreme Court questioned Tamil Nadu governor's delay in approving bills that have been pending since January of 2020. The court has also issued a notice to the Kerala governor. Ashmit joins us now to take us through the details. Ashmit, states moving the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, of course, has expressed concerns about the manner in which governors have been holding back bills.
Indeed, in fact, at one point, the CJI, Justice Chandrachud, remarked at the Attorney General that if the various state governments would be required to move the Supreme Court every time they want the governors to be set in motion with respect to granting assent to the bills in question. Here's the context. 3 governments had moved the apex court, Punjab, Kerala as well as Tamil Nadu. So far as the Punjab government is concerned, that is the case in which the Supreme Court has given its judgment. That judgment came on November 10th, and in that judgment, the Supreme Court had prodded the Punjab governor towards taking decisions on these bills that have been vetted by the Assembly, but also importantly had noted that, look, as far as the governor's role is concerned, once the bill is sent back twice by the State Assembly, in that case, there is no room for discretion. The governor has to grant his assent. It is basis that judgment that today we had the Tamil Nadu government as well as the Kerala government arguing before the apex court. The Tamil Nadu government said that, look, we have 15 bills that are pending. The Kerala government said we have 8 bills that are pending. The Tamil Nadu councils went on to say that some of these bills have been sent back twice, that the governor decided to act only after the Supreme Court had given its judgment in the November 10th Punjab government case, and raised the larger question that if the governor can sit indefinitely on these bills, and these are some of the words that echoed with the Chief Justice himself. He asked the Attorney General if there are provisions in the Constitution that allow for the governor to not take a decision and sit simpliciter on a bill indefinitely. Also asking whether what has been the governor been doing with respect to these bills, especially since there are some bills pending as far back as 2020, January of 2020. And these are some questions that one understands the Centre, the Attorney General, the governors will have to come back with a response on. November 24th, which is later this week on Friday, the Kerala government application will be heard. And on November 29th, the Supreme Court has said that it will watch the conduct of the governor and resume hearing in the Tamil Nadu case on November 29th.
All right, Ashmit, appreciate you joining us. Now, the fate of the 41 construction workers hangs in balance as they continue to be trapped inside the Uttarkashi tunnel for 9 days now. Desperate efforts are underway to drill through the debris. The Indian Army, Border Road Organisation and the DRDO have joined hands in the rescue operations. Arnold Dix, an international tunnelling expert, reached the site to guide authorities in the rescue operations. The authorities have come up with a new 5-point plan to try and get the trapped workers out. Anshul Singh has been getting us the updates on the rescue efforts. Here's his latest.
If I could just show you in the visuals over here, this is the water body source, and from here the vertical drilling will start within the next few minutes or probably by evening is what we are being told. You can see the markings that have been made over here. So the basic plan is there will be 2 pipes that will be drilled through it. The first pipe would be the lifeline pipe, which will be approximately 80 meters long, and the second pipe will be the rescue pipe. And through that vertical rescue pipe, it is expected that the people would be taken out. But yes, it is going to be a very, very long haul and a long process, because digging through 80 meters meter of mountain, the kind of terrain that is present over here is going to be a very, very long haul, and hence the work is also going on from at least 5 other directions, just to make sure that if at all any of these plans fail, the other plans remain continue to remain at work, so that people who are trapped inside for the last 9 days, they could be reached at the earliest. Now, this is one of the plans that has been put in place by the rescuers, whereas the easiest plan, what the rescuers feel still, is drilling through the American auger machine, but that drilling has still not started over the last 48 hours now. So yes, it remains to be seen when will that start, but yes, all these plans that are in work, that are in tandem, we are expecting that within the next few hours the heavy machines that have been called in will reach over here, and post that we can expect that finally the drilling process will start.
We're in the Himalayas.
Right.
Building a tunnel through this is extremely difficult. So rescuing is also extremely difficult. But we're going to get the 41 men out. We're going to make sure no rescuers get hurt in the process.
Well, that is the latest there from the Uttarkashi rescue operations. Former Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh Chandrababu Naidu has been granted a regular bail in the skill development case. The High Court had granted him a 4-week interim bail on the 31st of October. Far-right leader Javier Milei has been elected as the president of Argentina. Milei, who was vowed to exterminate inflation, secured over 55% of the vote compared to his rival Sergio Massa. Milei has promised to fix Argentina's perennial economic problems by making drastic budget cuts, replacing the battered peso with the US dollar and shutting down the central bank. While Ukraine's medical military system sees a rejig amidst the ongoing war with Russia, President Zelensky has replaced Major General Tatiana Ostashchenko, who was responsible for the armed forces' medical needs, with a new Major General. The move came after Zelensky met the defense minister to understand the challenges of the army. Defending the decision, Zelensky said Ukraine needs new combat-level medical support for soldiers. And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. Thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned to CNBC TV 18. The news continues when we return.